guys, we just finished going through the mazes for Halloween Horror Nights 2021.
And we're gonna go ahead and rank for you what we thought were the least scariest mazes to the scariest mazes. So we're gonna start off with our least scary, which is
Number
number 7, Pandora's Box.
I always love Pandora's Box. It's such a good time. It's so much fun with the black lights and the colors, and where you have like all of these cool different textures. But it usually isn't that scary. I mean, honestly, Summer always pushes me forward to go first through the maze, and she actually took the lead a couple of times, which kind of tells you a lot.
Yeah, this one was definitely one of my favorites to walk through because I think it's really pretty and really cool, but it's not that scary. Like if it's your first time coming and maybe you want like a starter maze or something to warm you up, definitely go to Pandora's Box. Or even if you like want to be scared but also want a visually nice experience, go check it out. It's really cool. It's just not that scary. Exactly. Which brings us to lucky number 6, which for me is The Haunting at Hill House. This one for me was really scary visually, but there wasn't a lot popping out at you. There wasn't a ton like coming around you. So I think that's why it was a little less scary for me. And I also am a huge fan of the show. So I think for me I was more focused on, oh, this is so cool, like I feel like I did it, than it was like, whoa, I'm terrified. But that being said, it was one of my favorite mazes for sure.
See, I would disagree with that. I would put that one a little bit higher on the list actually. I think that was scarier for me, but I'm gonna trust you and leave this at number 6. I thought it was a little scarier because for me, I also know the show, I'm a fan of the show, and something that really gets to me in terms of mazes and even horror films is eeriness. It's not necessarily the jump scares that scare me as much as just that feeling of horror and like ghosts.
Which
and
is
like
super fair because it does leave you with a super airy kind of like paranormal feeling.
Yeah.
That I didn't really get in a lot of the other mazes. Those were more like in your face scary, where this is more like eerie, like you just kind of feel uneasy but you're not quite sure why.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like probably because there's like a lot of like ghosts, but
yeah, like even when I first walked through and it's like the house, like going down all those hallways, I felt like I was really there.
Yeah,
and so I would have
too.
put it like at least one more higher on the list, but let's go on to the next one. What do you think was the 5th scariest maze?
I think for me, the 5th scariest was the Bride of Frankenstein. And I think for me, this one, I didn't really know the story going in. Like, I kind of went in blind, which was really fun. And I think it would make a sick movie. I think Universal should definitely make that. I think it'd be so fun to watch. And for me, it was overall pretty scary. It just wasn't the scariest, if that makes sense.
So the Bride of Frankenstein actually is not accurate to the movies because like the Bride of Frankenstein is barely in her movie at all. And so what they decided to do is actually write her own story for her in Bride of Frankenstein. So it's after like Dr. Frankenstein's like whole lab has started to collapse and she has awakened and Frankenstein he is dying and she wants to save him. That's why the room where it's crumbling and he's stuck. It's because like the lab was destroyed and he was stuck in the rubble, and so she tries to save him. And what she does is she does all of these experiments and she finds that using vampire blood, she can actually heal him and bring him back. So that's why you see the vampires in the cages. She's actually been experimenting on them and draining them of their blood. But to keep her test subjects alive, she actually has been having to kill real humans and bring them in to feed the vampires.
That's creepy.
Yeah, but that's why there were like bodies that were like human and not vampire in like different places. Is because actually those were the humans that she was using to feed the vampires.
Wow. I knew vampires and werewolves had beef. I didn't know about the Frankensteins too. Who knew?
Then she actually does succeed. And so that's why like when he comes off the table, it's because she has succeeded in using the vampire blood to bring him back to life. But then the vampires break out and she has to fight them to get out. It's really cool.
It's all starting to make sense to me now. I think if I was a little less scared, I would have got the story a little bit more. But I think you can definitely get the gist of it going through the maze. And even if you really pay attention, you'll get all of it. But if you're a scaredy cat like me, you'll get most of it. Like it had a really good medium of story
Yeah.
everything looking really cool and it being scary. So I thought it was probably, for me, it wasn't my favorite, but it was definitely the most like well balanced as an experience.
I actually think that in terms of telling a story, the Universal Monster Mazes are like some of my favorites. I really felt like I was in it, and so even though it's number 5 in terms of scariest, it's still probably my favorite maze this year.
See, it's funny because for me, Haunting Hill House was probably my favorite just because I thought it was so cool visually. But yeah, that is cool. I do think Bride of Frankenstein would make an awesome movie. So Universal, make that movie.
Make
It'd be
it!
so
Make
sick.
it! We want to see it.
That'd
We'll
be so
go watch
awesome.
it.
All right, I think that brings us to our 4th least scariest maze. Or 4th scariest.
I think we're starting to get into the scarier ones,
I
like
think
with
so
number
too.
4.
Our 4th scariest. I think for me that would be
Exorcist.
Exorcist. Yeah, definitely
It's
Exorcist.
definitely, and I think the reason I actually love that Exorcist is number 4 here because that maze like totally transitions.
Yeah.
Like when you first go into the maze, it's not as scary.
And it like builds. Like it gets
Yes.
scary as you go along, which is really cool. It starts out pretty scary, but then by the end you feel like you're like running out of there just because everything is popping out at you from everywhere, and it just like the climax is huge. It gets really scary, which is
And I
awesome.
love that. I love it when a maze can like it's not the same all the way through. It
Yeah.
just like builds in momentum because then like it can have an even better like overall experience when you get to the end and you're just freaking out.
Yeah,
And at
'cause
first
then
you
you
think you
leave
can
on like
handle
a high
it.
note. It really like transitions, which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely, and I know they had Exorcist in the past. They
Yeah.
redid it, so this time it's way cooler, way scarier in my opinion.
I
That
love-
one really gives you the heebie-jeebies.
I love the spot where like that like Reagan's head just like sprays stuff at you. I don't know if it was water, if it was just
I
smoke,
hope it was water.
but it like came right at me and I was like, oh, gross.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that one.
I
Okay,
think-
then for your 3rd scariest, is that going to be Halloween?
Yeah.
That was Halloween.
Yeah, I think Halloween 4 is definitely the 3rd scariest. It definitely deserves to be really close to the top of the list.
Which means we're in our top 3.
I know, it's so exciting.
It's so exciting.
It's really, it's hard, I feel like, for a Halloween maze to rank low because Michael Myers
The
is
music
so
alone.
scary and the music alone. But like
Yeah.
the minute the music starts playing, you're like, oh no,
Yeah.
where is he? Where is? And then they always have him everywhere, and it's horrible
It's
in
so
the best
creepy.
way. It's like,
And it's always Michael Myers, but like sometimes he's a little different, which is kind of scary because you don't know exactly what to look out for.
Yeah.
Like they had the part where he was the clown, they had the part he was in gauze. It was just really an immersive experience, and he was just everywhere.
I
So was
feel
the
like-
music. You
Yeah.
like couldn't escape it.
I feel like my favorite part was probably the room with the mirrors because you couldn't like. That's like when we're talking about him being everywhere. I think
Yeah.
that is like the epitome of what we mean. It's just like everywhere you look, he's there or
Yeah.
reflected there. You don't know what is real, and it's confusing and it's disorienting.
Yeah, you end the maze where it's just mirrors and him everywhere, and like I think it's like every other or every 3 Michael Myers like pops out at you, and it's just like feels like it's all around you because it is all mirrors.
Yeah.
Super creepy.
Yeah, so that was I loved that, and that was my favorite. Definitely my favorite part of that maze.
I think so too. Yeah, definitely for me too.
Oh my gosh, now we're to number 2, the
Number
second
2.
scariest maze of the entire park.
My entire thing. I think for me, the second scariest is Walking Dead,
Oh,
which
yeah.
probably isn't a surprise because it is a maze that's here at Universal year round.
Yeah.
So it was like very much like very well done structurally. Like everything is there all the time.
Yeah.
There are people popping out that you can't tell. Like all of the like dummies of zombies they made look super realistic. I couldn't tell what was a real person or not.
Oh, yeah.
Everything was so well
And
done.
I feel like they keep improving it because I almost, when we went in, I expected it to be a lot like when we did it last time, and it was. It was similar, but there were touches that were so much better. Like even the creatures like hanging on the meat hooks, like the half zombies. Like
so gross.
I cannot say enough about that. That was the single scariest moment to me because I was looking at them and their faces, their expression, everything looked so real.
really
I would not have been able to tell them apart from like the actual actors like walking around as zombies, and that freaked me out.
It was creepy. And they like followed you more because it wasn't as tight. Like a maze, it's typically a smaller path you're following.
And they have like
Because it
more
was
room
there,
to like
there was
chase
more
you.
room. Yeah, so they would follow you for a while. It was like, whoa, like, is this still okay? Like, it was so scary.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was definitely for me the second scariest, almost the first scariest. It was kind of tied for me, but the other one, we'll tell you why in a second. At least for me, it was my
The grand
top.
like master of scare this year is
Grand
definitely Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Which was honestly surprising to me because they've had it before.
Yeah.
In the past, I always thought it was like a gross maze, but I wasn't super scared. I hate chainsaws. I always have. But it was never like super scary. It was more gross. This year, both. It was both scary and disgusting. And smelled horrible. That was something
so
that was big in 2019 is all the mazes had like really distinct scents. Whether that was like good smelling or horrible smelling, like everything was very fragrant. This year I didn't feel that way for most mazes.
And it's hard to tell like because the mask, so it could be there's some sense that we're not picking up.
Yeah, but that one you could smell everything.
Oh yeah.
And we had thick masks and you could smell everything. It was so gross.
I think the reason that it's like both the grossest and the scariest this year is honestly the way that they structured the maze, which I thought was so well done. Because like even in the hall where you go through and there's like blankets like hanging from the ceiling, it makes you feel like you're going through and you don't know where things are coming from.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is like sometimes when they set the mazes, like you can kind of feel where they're gonna set the scares, and so it makes it a little less scary. There it's a little harder to tell because of the way they structure it, and you're going down long hallways like where are they coming from? And then you smell the rot and you just like you see
really
the grossness.
You couldn't tell at all where people were popping out, which is why I think it was especially scary for me. And they were popping out from everywhere. The sound of the chainsaws was so loud, like you couldn't escape it, which was horrifying.
I think the chainsaws like add some, and you know, like you said, they usually do have the chainsaws, but I think this year when you pair the chainsaws with the way that they like have you go through the maze, it like made all the difference. It changed everything.
Yeah, it made it super scary, even grosser than before. I didn't think that was possible with Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I was like, it was like really gross.
Like skin everywhere, mess everywhere, people popping out from everywhere. You just wanted to get out of there, but in the best way. Like you were hoping to get out of there alive. I think that was the one maze I legitimately was like, am I in a maze? Or are they like tripping me out? Because I'm really scared right now.
Yeah. This was not only the scariest maze, but my favorite maze this year. And I think that also the smell made it even grosser. Because like they've had like things like skin lamps and like different kinds of like gross. Yeah, like they had that in the last like Texas Chainsaw Massacre maze. And it was like really gross.
If you're really squeamish around blood or scents, you might want to skip out on this one. But if you can persevere, I would do it because it's a really cool maze overall.
Alright, so that's it for our video, guys, from our least scary to scariest mazes of 2021.
And like we said, that isn't necessarily our favorites or our least favorite.
Yeah.
We just did it on scariest, most terrifying, no, opposite, least terrifying to most terrifying. We hope you guys enjoyed, and let us know in the comments below what were your favorite mazes this year.
Oh, and also let us know if you got lost too. Make us not feel so bad about ourselves.
We highly recommend downloading the app ahead of time. That's it for us. Have a good night, guys.